Good morning, good afternoon, good evening and good night, Hellblazers, wherever you may be. I hope you are well. This is Chris Gordon here on Ramblings of a Hellblazer, as endorsed by cast and crew of Constantine. Anyway, I hope everybody is well. It is a Monday morning, we have a new week. That's a new week for tweeting out and for keeping all the fandom strong and ongoing and positivity going. As some of you may know, I went to see the Crucible in Manchester on Saturday, Manchester, UK. And, the main reason, obviously, for me going was because it had Constantine's own John Joe O'Neill starring in the role as John Proctor. So, this is going to be my review. I do apologise, forgive me, I am by no means a qualified critic at all. So, it's just my opinion on the play from a punter's point of view. If I've got some of the things wrong, or if I've interpreted it wrong, it's how I've interpreted it myself. Please take that in mind when you listen to the review. Okay, so for the review, I'm going to focus on a couple of things. The theatre itself, the overall production, and several of the players who actually stood out for me. The theatre itself. The Royal Exchange Theatre looks like a lunar landing on craft on steroids. However, it works very well. It's set within the old Stock Exchange main hall where the Stock Exchange boards are still up, and with light coming from two huge glass domes in the ceiling. It's an eclectic, if that's the correct word, mix of modern and old, but it works. You walk in and you feel that you're somewhere special straight away. The theatre itself is an in-the-round affair. For anyone who might not know, this means the stage is a circle set in the middle with seating all around. Forgive me for being patronising for those who do know. I just thought I'd clear that up. There's 3 levels of seating in the theatre, with every seat has a great view of the stage itself. It feels very intimate as a result of all this. I was lucky to be at stage level, about 5 rows back. That was the back row. And the backstage area is actually outside the theatre capsule, so the actors would have to come in at the theatre entrances, which one for me was right next to me. The production itself was very clever and very well done. There were no props being used, bar some chairs lined up on one walkway leading out the theatre on one side, which were like they had been done like a church, pews. And the opposite side was set up like a woodland with some tree stumps around there. These were the entrances and exits for the actors. Whereas some plays I've seen, most in fact, use props to assist in the storytelling, being in the round and laid out the way it was, with no way for a curtain to drop to move things around, the stage was bare. This laid way for a truly impressive experience where everything was laid on to the actors to convey. Yes, there were some smaller props like a folder of confessions, papers and pens for depositions, etc. There was a plate, which John Joe ate from, and a rifle, which he carried as well, and some other little bits and pieces like that. But as for scenery, furniture, things like that, it was nothing. It was absolutely bare, and therefore it laid everything on for the actors to do. The atmosphere inside was extremely intense. Being in such an intimate setting, we were sat less than 20 feet from the players. One could feel the emotion and very much feel a part of the production, as though you were there in Salem with them. The use of speakers to convey external noise and thunder and lightning was very well done, and also the rain in the centre, forming a big pool. All players used the space they had and ensured that they included all the audience. What I also found interesting and unique, in the sense that I've not experienced it before, was the use of the external area of the theatre. As I've mentioned, the theatre is in a capsule in a larger old hall. The players used that space also to further enhance the atmosphere. We couldn't see them, but we could hear them. The girls running through the woods ran through the stage and off the stage and out the building, and you could hear them outside and running all around you. The courtroom as well, it was all that was done outside the theatre, so the main courtroom was outside, and then we were akin to one of the ante-rooms, but we all heard what was going on. And the players entered the main stage then, continuing conversations that we'd already been partial to. It was very well produced and excellent use of the facilities, and I congratulate the entire production crew, from the director to lighting to sound to costumes, for their work behind the scenes in making this come to life. The story itself is one that is powerful, being set at the height of the Salem witch trials. I won't delve too much into the actual story, but it's a very powerful and emotional one. It conveys to me mass hysteria, misuse of power, and the power of belief and religious fervour of that time. Persecution is at the heart of it, persecuting those who are different, accusing them of devil worship and being witches, subsequently taking them to a trial, which no matter what you lose. If you admit to witchcraft and devil worship, you end up being imprisoned and then labelled for life. Should you plead innocence, then you're branded regardless and you're hanged. Many have said that it reflects some aspects of society today, and I could see that, and it draws parallels and draw parallels with things going on in the world presently, especially to persecuting those who are different. Right, on to the acting. Every single player is worthy of merit in this production. There was not one player or character that appeared weak or poor, as in acting abilities. All were outstanding in their own right, and they came across showing the experience that each of them has. So bravo to every single actor and actress. You're all extremely good. But in the time I've got on my podcast, I can't unfortunately detail everyone, so I've singled out 7 who I was particularly drawn to. Firstly, Sam Cox, who played the character Giles Corey. Giles Corey was in my eyes a light-hearted character, albeit hot-tempered. I say this as his dialogue was at times witty, gaining some favour with the audience, but also at very times tragic, and it's very tragic at the end when we're enlightened to his wife being one of those who were hanged, and to his passing. He is a strong character, yet amiable. And Sam Cox, the actor playing him, is no stranger to screen nor stage, and he played the part exceedingly well, utilising a very dry humour and winning himself over with the audience watching. Deputy Governor Thomas Danforth was played by Peter Guinness. The Deputy Governor was the authority. He was revered by all, his word was final. And Peter Guinness, who's also appeared in such things like Merlin, Strike Back, and even Alien 3, which I was shocked to see, as well as a plethora of stage and screen, he dominated that stage when he was on it. His first appearance in judicial robes, right through to the end, each time he was on, he commanded respect, he utilised the entire stage, and his voice carrying power and authority. One moment that stuck with me, actually, for Peter and the Governor was his explanation that he couldn't pardon one of the accused, as it would then mean he would be undermined in his decisions to have ordered the previous 12 to death. Very, very well played. I'd like to see more of Peter Guinness in further productions too. Reverend Parris, played by Stephen Kennedy. Stephen Kennedy was very good as Reverend. He opened the play as it begins in his house, with his niece being seemingly ill and unconscious in like a coma, vegetative state. He displayed raw emotion as well as displaying fundamentalism in his religious fervour. He was questioned with wit by John Proctor about that, actually, in that he hasn't mentioned God in his sermons at all, only damnation, dancing with the devil, and what would happen if you did go down the devil's path, but never seemed to be about God and his glory in his sermons. The change in views from Reverend Parris and anguish as the story unfolded and how it changed him were all very, very well acted and very well played out by Stephen. Okay, on to Abigail Williams. This was played by Rachel Redford. Rachel, she was basically the young mistress bent on revenge, which is Abigail. And Abigail drives the play. She's the vehicle, that drives the play. She bears most of the responsibility for the girls meeting with Tituba in the woods, and once Parris discovers them, she attempts to conceal her behaviour because it would reveal her affair with Proctor if she confesses to casting a spell on Elizabeth Proctor, which she did. Abigail lies to conceal the affair and to prevent charges of witchcraft. In order to avoid severe punishment for casting spells and adultery, not to mention attempted murder when she plots Elizabeth's death, Abigail shifts the focus from herself by accusing others of witchcraft. This desperate act of self-preservation soon becomes Abigail's avenue of power. Rachel played the part extremely well, and even when she was slightly off stage, when she couldn't be seen by all, she was still conveying the emotion, sobbing away, and seeing that she was absolutely heartbroken, for example, against John Proctor when he spurns her and he runs off. She comes across as the leader, obviously, of the girls at court as well, and her pretense, or was it, against Mary Warren was very convincing and unnerving, showing that manipulation can be deadly. I also apologise to Rachel, as post-show when I was waiting for John Joe, I didn't recognise her immediately when she came out the stage door and asked if she could actually let me know, let John Joe know that I was there. When I realised, I gushed out congratulations because I was very embarrassed not recognising her. So apologies, Rachel, but you were very, very good in that role. Okay, moving on to the next one is Reverend John Hale, played by Tim Steed. Reverend John Hale is seen as the expert in the matters of the occult and other worldly things, and his expertise was brought in when the situation was getting confused within Salem. Tim was very good. From his entrance, he looked like a rambler, through to his conviction that he must uphold being part of the court and the law, and showing how in those days that Christianity held a great sway in the judicial and legal process, and he was respected as such. His keenness to prove witchcraft was evident and left him vulnerable in that regard to Abigail's persuasiveness and manipulation, and seen his breakdown towards the end and the conflict within him when John Proctor's forced to sign is excellent, and one could really feel for him and the torment within as he tore it himself to uphold the law, but also to try and plead common sense and mercy. Moving on to another female character here who I thought was one of the very best ones there, and very well played, was the character of Mary Warren, played by Rhea Smitrovich. I hope I've said that right, Rhea. I must make special mention to Rhea as Mary Warren, because the character was absolutely fantastic. It was flawless. She had wit, but she also exuded a vulnerability and naivety. She showed the dedication to duty and friends and was obviously torn between her loyalties, especially when Abigail persuades everyone that Mary's lying, for example, with regards to an innocent puppet that she gave to Elizabeth Proctor. It was a key role, and Rhea played it perfectly. It was very well came across, and even my wife said that was one of her favourite characters. She was very, very good. Right, now on to the person who I admit was the reason for coming to see the play, John Joe O'Neill. John Joe plays John Proctor, who was the main character. He had faltered and sinned, but he also admitted to being a sinner and spent 7 months trying to make up for it with his wife. He turned his back when temptation came his way with Abigail leading him on, which then obviously spurred Abigail into her set of revenge even further. He kept his faith strong. He portrayed that you don't need to go to church and attend every single service and every single Sunday to have faith and believe in God. However, he is guilt-ridden and he believes he's permanently damaged himself in the eyes of both God and his wife with the affair that he had. John Joe himself brought raw emotion to the character, a mix of wit when required, and animosity and venom, and also sincerity when talking to his wife. And he also showed the frustration that no matter what it did, it just didn't seem good enough for her, as that trust had been lost, at least in his eyes. The relationship between him and Elizabeth as well, Elizabeth Proctor, during the play was very strained all the way throughout. You could see that, and there was a very tense atmosphere there. In the final act, where John Proctor, standing in a pool of water after months of being tortured to admit to a ludicrous charge of seeing the devil, etc., and being witchcraft, fights with his inner self, his morals, his own soul. He signs the statement, admitting it all, but begs for his name to be left away from being put all over the town. He's given everything there. He's given the authority what they want, but he begs for his name, because that's all that he's going to have left. He doesn't want his friends to have died and his name to be associated with condoning their condemnation. He battles for his soul, his self, very self, and he'd rather sacrifice himself than betray his faith, his core belief and his soul. Highly charged, highly emotional, and an excellent performance from John Joe. And especially towards the end, if you really felt for him, you were really involved, you were there right with him. And yeah, it made me choke. It was really, really powerful. All in all, I congratulate and say bravo to all the players and the production crew. It was well worth the money. It was 3 hours long, and it was my wife's first ever play. She wasn't looking forward to it, I admit, but she came away having enjoyed it all, even if upon meeting John Joe she did state that she hadn't understood the ending at all, but we all laughed about that. John Joe explained it all to her, and then we all had a laugh and still chuckle about it. Now, I'd like to thank all involved for a great show and experience, and give a special shout out to John Joe for taking time to meet me afterwards and spend some time with me, even though he didn't have any, and for his warm greeting. Hopefully I'll get the chance to meet up again. I hope you've all enjoyed this. As said, I'm not a critic, and this is just my opinion. I might have got some things wrong, or misinterpreted things in my own way, but I hope you've all enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed going to see the play. Well, that was my review of The Crucible, with John Joe O'Neill, and Peter Guinness, and many others. So, I shall leave you all here. I shall also inform you that for those of you who are interested, I submitted my first iOS Apple app last night. It's already on the Android Play Store, but I've submitted one to Apple now as well, and I think that directly links through to my Spreaker too. So that should be, hopefully, as long as they accept it, will be available in about up to 14 days, and it's free of charge. Anyway, so guys, thank you very much for listening. This has been Chris Gordon, Ramblings of a Hellblazer, and I'll be signing out for now, and talk to you soon. Take it easy. Bye.